Hey yo, what is up FPG fam? Further here, and it is that time again where we do a full review on the brand new Simulacrum, which in this case is Ruby. Now Ruby dropped with the very exciting 2.0 patch that introduced Vera, the brand new region, and Ruby has been a treat to say the least. So with the full review, we're just going to break down Ruby a little bit. We're going to talk about everything that I enjoy about this Simulacrum. I'll give you my thoughts on whether she's worth pulling or not. And hopefully this video is enjoyable and you do like what you see and it's helpful. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it. If you do enjoy the video or find it helpful, go ahead and drop a like. It just helps out the channel tremendously and it tells YouTube that this video was pretty decent and you kind of like it. Also, because British Kazua just subbed, welcome to the FPG fam, you made it in the video. And also, if you're new here or if you haven't done it already, like British Kazua, go ahead and consider subscribing, join the FPG family. We would love to have you stick around. That was perfect timing. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. So like I mentioned, Ruby was introduced when Vera 2.0 patch dropped, and I had my expectations for Ruby and she absolutely exceeded that. So just in case you're unaware and you haven't seen my pulling videos, I did go ahead and obtain a 1 Ruby and I did obtain the 2-piece matrices set. We'll go ahead and take a look at those more in depth here in just a second. And I've been using Ruby extensively over the weekend for the past couple of days, really making sure I have a full understanding of the Simulacrum before dropping this full review. That's why it took a little bit longer and why we're doing it now. And I can say in confidence that Ruby is a stellar Simulacrum, a fantastic one that has a complete synergistic kit, very cohesive, and is a core asset to the Flame team. If you are a Flame main, I think Ruby is an absolute fantastic pickup for you. So let's go ahead and talk about her kit a little bit. We'll break that down first and then we'll go ahead and jump into her matrices, traits, and things of that nature. So Ruby has a very balanced kit and, like I mentioned, synergistic and cohesive. So Ruby comes with a 11.5 shatter, an 8 charge, fantastic, meaning she can shield break and she can charge decently. Now she does have an attack and a crit and is a DPS weapon. Ruby also comes with the Flame Resonance, so once again fantastic for Flame mains, especially if you skip Cobalt, you still get the Flame Resonance, so you are set there. Ruby's advancements are great. They just increase her damage overall and really spike the damage potential. So Ruby's advancements are good, but I will say are not needed. A0 Ruby, which I've tested extensively, is fantastic on her own. You don't feel the pressure of needing to get advancements like you do with Cobalt B. And let me just say this really quickly before we move forward. Ruby feels like what I wanted Cobalt B to be, and we'll go more into detail about that here in just a second. But unlike Cobalt B, where you feel pressured to get advancements to really unlock her potential and see the damage that you want her to output, Ruby doesn't require that. Now, like I mentioned, Ruby does spike with advancements and the damage gets pretty nutty, but A0 Ruby gets the job done perfectly fine in my opinion. Now let's go ahead and talk about the kit at this time, starting with the normal attacks, which Ruby is one of the very few Simulacrums where the normal attack actually matters, which once again we'll get more into detail here in just a second. But you can see the multipliers here are good on Ruby for the normal attacks. The aerial discharge is very nice as well with good multipliers. And then we have Gotcha, where you tap and hold the normal attack button, or you do this after the lockdown zone is triggered to continuously fire searing energy beams. This is an amazing hold attack because not only does it do good damage, but you are very mobile. You will be schmoovin' when you're doing the hold attack, which if you know me and you've been on the channel for any amount of time, I do like Simulacrums that are mobile, that are agile, and are not stationary. And this allows you to do that and then some. So I love this hold attack. We take a look at Blazing Dive. This Blazing Dive actually does good damage as well. You tap and hold normal attack while airborne to trigger Blazing Dive, so it's really nice. And then you have the lockdown zone. This is where Ruby's kit starts to become very complete because she's able to not only do damage, but she's able to CC. She has a lot of utility, and this is one of them with the lockdown zone. So after the second normal attack, you can hold the button during an attack to deal damage equal to 40% of your attack against the target, and you basically lock them down in this pyramid to where they can't move for a certain amount of time. This is very useful in certain situations. Once again, not something that you would use all the time, but it is useful on occasions. Now this is where Ruby's kit really starts to unlock, and this is where you really start to see her potential, and this is what makes her a very useful Simulacrum, once again with the utility, and that is Go Dolly. I absolutely love Go Dolly. So you throw Dolly after dodging. Dolly remains for 10 seconds, drawing in nearby enemies and dealing damage equal to 84.6% of attack. So Go Dolly does a lot. It taunts, it pulls the enemies in, and it actually does damage as well. This is something that you can continuously refresh, and this allows you to stay at a safe distance, to have good spacing, continue to do damage while the enemies are focused on Dolly. Not only are they focused on Dolly, but Dolly's also doing damage to them, and it's grouping them in so you can keep everybody in the same area and you just continuously doing damage to them, whether that be with the hold attack or with your normal attacks, aerial attacks. You can even put them in the lockdown zone at that time. Go Dolly is just absolutely phenomenal. Cannot say enough good stuff about Go Dolly. Then if we move over to the skill, well, I mentioned this in a previous video, this is quite literally a light novel right here, and a bit confusing, complicated, and convoluted, but we're gonna go ahead and do a full breakdown of this skill, and after this breakdown, hopefully you have a much better understanding of this skill, because it's fantastic and it's doing a lot. But let's go ahead and break it down for you. So Sparkling Collider, Spark fires out sparks. Right there can be confusing in of itself, but basically the weapon fires out sparks that last for 15 seconds and bounces between the target and the wanderer. Now, what's really cool about this is the 15 seconds, when you do the skill, there's actually a ring that goes underneath yourself or Ruby or the character that you have out that lasts for 15 seconds. That is the timer that you can actually see for this, which is really cool. I like that little feature that they put there, and sparks bounces between targets, which is really nice as well. Now upon hitting the target, the sparks slow it down for 4 seconds with a 15-second cooldown. That is the first utility right there of this skill, is that it slows enemies, which is extremely nice and can be useful. Sparks deals more damage the further it travels. On hit, it deals damage up to 350% of attack, plus 2,650, and inflicts a 25-second emblazoned mark on the target. So a lot right there. So basically, the further you are, the more damage that you're going to be able to do, or the further Sparks travels, the more damage that you're going to be able to do. And when you do the skill, you actually put an emblazoned mark on the target, which then allows you to do even more damage towards the target. But let's go ahead and continue now. At the same time, Spark fires 4 bullets, with each bullet dealing damage equal to 50% of attack, plus 189 against its target. So you're going to be doing an additional 50% of attack with those 4 bullets. And then Spark's normal attacks deal 30% more damage to emblazoned marked targets. So those emblazoned marked targets, you're going to be doing an additional 30% of attack, whether that be with your normal attacks. I believe it applies to your charge attacks and aerial attacks if I'm not mistaken, but certainly your normal attacks, which is extremely nice. So that's why you're going to be wanting to spam that when you do your skill. Now, moving on from there, when Sparks hits targets burned by the Wanderer, it burns or ignites the target once and deals an additional damage equal to 45% of the total remaining damage. So you're getting an additional 45% worth of damage towards burned targets, and it's a 30-second skill cooldown. This is absolutely phenomenal. 30 seconds is great for the skill because the skill is doing so much, so you're wanting to be able to do it as often as possible. Now, one last thing for this skill is the passive. When Sparks is active, each time Sparks deals damage, the Wanderer gains 1 point of heat with a 0.9-second cooldown for up to 8 points of heat. When heat reaches the maximum, the Wanderer gains the effect Ultimate Heat, increasing flame attack by 10% for 25 seconds. Now, what's really cool about this is that not only are you getting even more damage with flame attack by 10% for 25 seconds, so that's additional damage that you're getting, but you can actually tell when you have maximum heat in effect or going on, because you have an icon above your head, which is a flame icon, and it shows that you have ultimate heat. And you can check that by looking above your health. There's icons that you can see, and it'll tell you that you have ultimate heat. But once ultimate heat is on, you have that flame icon above your head, which is incredible, because then that tells you that you have ultimate heat, you're doing the most damage possible, and then it plays into the rest of the kit that is just doing tons of damage for everything, whether it be the 30% for the emblazoned, 45% for the burn targets, the 50% for the bullets that you're shooting out, the initial damage of the skill itself. It's just so much happening. You also have the slow with the skill, so there's just so much going on with the skill that it just becomes an amazing tool and an amazing part of this kit. So I can't say enough good stuff about the skill. Absolutely phenomenal, and it just once again plays into why AZ or Ruby is so great, because of how good this skill is. You don't need to unlock advancements to get the emblazoned mark. You don't need to unlock the advancements to get the 45% when targets are burned. You don't need to unlock the advancements to get the ultimate heat. That is all built within the skill, and that's why the skill is so great, and that's why A0 Ruby is great. That could easily have been locked behind advancements, and as you progress, you unlock the 45% additional burn, you unlock the emblazoned mark for additional 30% attack. You see what I'm saying? It could have all been behind advancements, but the fact that it's all built within the skill makes the skill top tier and makes a Ruby fantastic. Now let's go ahead and move over to the Discharge. Supernova, I spoke about this before in a previous video. This is just a satisfying discharge to get off. It hits extremely hard. It is a fantastic all around. Spark enters the charge state, continuously blasting searing energy, beams at the target location before eventually exploding, dealing damage equal to 750% of attack plus 2,839. It just hits like a truck. It's like a nuclear bomb that goes off. When Spark hits targets burned by the Wanderer, it burns or ignites the target once and deals an additional damage equal to 45% of the total damage, total remaining damage. So this is actually another way that you can either ignite or burn. So you can actually do the discharge to burn if you wanted to, pop the skill, and then be able to do even additional damage with the skill because you burned with the discharge. So that's just one way you can do it. And then it's the same, the result calculation cooldown is 6 seconds. So this is a fantastic discharge. Once again, hits like a truck. It's satisfying the pop and awesome animation. So discharge is great. So those are the skills for Ruby. Once again, very cohesive kit, very synergistic kit, very strong kit, and this is why A0 Ruby is great, because the kit itself is great. But let's go ahead and take a look at the advancements really quickly. So A1, this is a power spike for Ruby because the emblazon boosts the damage of spark attack to 80%. Skill cooldown drops to 24 seconds. This is an incredible A1. I spoke about this once again in a previous video. It's a stark contrast to Cobalt B's A1, where I feel it's very negligible. Ruby's is actually fantastic because not only does it drop the skill cooldown to 24 seconds, which 30 seconds was great already, but now it's 24 seconds, which is fantastic. But then the emblazoned mark that you receive, where you increase damage, boosts the damage of spark attacks, which is your normal attacks, to 80%, which is insane. So when you're doing the normal attack, so if you have A1, you're going to want to traditionally do your normal attacks because that is the spark attack, because you're going to have an additional 80% of damage there. So you can still do the hold attacks, the aerials and all that, but you're really going to want to stick to the normal attacks. And this is where the kit of Go Dolly comes into play really well, because you throw Go Dolly out there, they're focused on that. You can sit back and do normal attacks all day long and then just refresh Go Dolly whenever Go Dolly goes away, and then the enemies are focused on you. Just throw Dolly back out there and then you continue to attack. I don't know why I kept saying Go Dolly. You just throw Dolly out there and then you continue to attack at a safe distance. Really good. Now if we take a look at the 3-star, Emblazon increases flame boost by 8% and the burn multiplier to 75%. Insane. Over to 5 stars, restore an additional 75 points of weapon charge, which means you can get the discharge off even more, whether that be for yourself, Cobalt, King. The thing about the flame team is that you have so many great shield breakers, whether it be Huma, that you're gonna be shield breaking like no one's business. And with the introduction of Ruby, I think King had such a great glow up here in this team as well, because you discharge so often, you're shield breaking great. You could shield break with anybody, so you don't really need to pick and choose. It's fantastic. But anyways, I digress. So 75 points of charge, weapon charge each time spark attack hits an enemy, cooldown 0.9 seconds. Shatter increases by 25% when ultimate heat is active, which if you remember, ultimate heat is within our skill. So this is insane. You're getting even more shatter. And then the 6-star Emblazon boosts the damage of spark attack to 160%. That's just nutty. And doubles heat acquisition efficiency. Skill cooldown drops to 16 seconds. This A6 is just absolutely nutty, man. I would love to have an A6 Ruby, because you are going to be doing tremendous amount of damage and you're going to be popping your skill so often. And this is why the advancements for Ruby is so synergistic, is because the emblazoned mark is built within the skill. So to be able to pop the skill more often, you need the cooldown to come down. Well, the A6 brings it down to 16 seconds. That is relative to Claudia's cooldown, and you know how often you can pop Claudia's skill. This is gonna be the same thing, just by a second off. And then you're getting 160%. It doubles the damage that you're doing from A1 to A6 and doubles the heat acquisition efficiency. This A6 is just incredible. It's ridiculous. So That is the advancements for Ruby, top tier in my opinion. Now let's go ahead and talk about her trait, which I think is actually slept on. I haven't heard too many people speak about her trait, but I am in the process of unlocking it because I think it's actually really good, and that's just because of my understanding of Godali. I need to stop saying Godali because of my understanding of Dolly. So Dreamcatcher, which is the 1200 trait, increases the flame damage taken by all enemies within 5 meters of Dolly by 8%. This is great in my opinion because you're going to be doing more flame damage within 5 meters of Dolly. The thing is that Dolly brings the enemies in. They're always going to be within 5 meters of Dolly, and you're always continuously refreshing Dolly because that's part of how you use Ruby, is to have Dolly and then do your normal attacks. So you're going to just be doing more damage in something that you would naturally be doing anyways, which is great. And then the 4K trait increases the flame damage received by all enemies within 5 meters of Dolly by 8%. Not stackable. Increases flame attack after throwing Dolly by 12% for 10 seconds. But you also have to remember is Dolly's doing damage on her own as well. So you're having damage from Dolly, damage from the 4K trait, damage from your skill, damage from the burn, damage from everywhere. It's just damage everywhere. Damage is happening all the time, no matter what, with Ruby, with this flame team. This is why I'm becoming a flame main fan, and Ruby is the one that has made that transition for me, is because of how good Ruby is herself. In terms of matrices, I think the 4-piece matrices set is fantastic for Ruby. I think it is incredible in my opinion. So the 2-piece, you're going to be increasing flame attack after casting weapon skill by 8% for 25 seconds, which is great. And then the 4-piece, grant mastery after casting weapon skill for 15 seconds with a cooldown of 15 seconds. Mastery is not stackable. Increases flame damage by those percentages every time the target is hit with a normal attack until the end of mastery. Stacks up to 6 times, adding a maximum of 1 stack. So I think her 4-piece set is incredible. Right now I'm running 2-piece Ruby because that's all I was able to get, and then 2-piece Crow. I think this is great because it increases crit damage to targets with less than 60% of HP by those percentages. I think that works. I think you can also do a 2-piece Samir. Now if I had the Samir pieces in the right place, I would use that as well, because you're increasing damage progressively by 1% upon hitting a target. I think this might actually be better than the 2-piece Crow because it's just more reliable. But once again, I have it in the wrong spot. I have it where my rubies would be, so that's why I'm doing 2-piece Crow. But if I had the 2-piece Samir in the right spot, I would probably be doing that. But I think those are the best. So 4-piece Ruby, or 2-piece Ruby, 2-piece Samir, or 2-piece Ruby, 2-piece Crow if you have those available. If you don't, I would think popping the Discharge is going to be fantastic. So 3-piece Pepper would be great in my opinion. You can even go with a 3-piece Echo if you have that available lying around, and I'm sure others will work as well. Those are just kind of off the top of my head what I think are going to be maybe the most valuable for the matrices set. So she has options, and you could just maybe try a few and see which ones work. So right now I think a really good team comp is Ruby, Cobalt, King. I think you can do that, but you can definitely switch out Cobalt for other simulacras. Like Cobalt you could switch out for Claudia, you could switch out for Nemesis. It really just depends on what you have on your team. I think Huma slots in here really nice as well. Actually is probably preferred to slot in Huma instead of maybe Cobalt or King. You have different options that you can definitely work with. Claudia, especially if you have A1, is fantastic because you have damage reduction, you have immunities, but then you're also getting the damage boost. So I think Claudia can fit in here really nice, where you could do Ruby, Claudia, Cobalt, Ruby, Claudia, King, whatever you prefer. I actually am preferring King more than Cobalt just because I have my King start up, and I just don't think Cobalt's all that great, to be quite honest with you. In this team where I have the 3 Ruby, Cobalt, and King, I basically am using Ruby the majority of the time, and whenever I have my Discharge up, I'm basically discharging in the King, and then doing the skill, and then if I have the charge again, I would go into Cobalt, do the skill, and then go back in the Ruby, and then just leave Ruby out for the time being. But Cobalt, she doesn't really have too much time on the field, and just is the problem with this team is that with the flame team, there's just so many shield breakers that I don't see the point in really having Cobalt, unless the caveat is you have advancements. If you have A3 and above, then Cobalt has an absolute place on this team, and she performs beautifully. And the charge attack is really nice to pop off when you have it available, so that way you get an extra bit of damage. So Cobalt definitely has a spot, but you can argue replacing Cobalt with Huma. or replacing Cobalt with Claudia, I wouldn't argue, or even Nemesis at that point, I wouldn't argue with you there. But I think definitely the team gonna be moving forward, if you have only an A0 or A1 Cobalt, is going to consist of Ruby, Lynn, and then probably King or Huma is probably going to slot in there, and then of course Annabelle down the road, which is exciting because I was already excited about Annabelle, and I'm even more excited now that I have Ruby and I've been using the Flame team. The Flame team is definitely becoming like my secondary team now. It's on the fence if it was going to be Volt. Been using Flame, love Ruby, I think it's going to be Flame. But just to go ahead and wrap everything up, should you pick up Ruby? If you're a Flame main, I think Ruby's an absolute pickup. I think you cannot go wrong even at A0. Once again, Saki might be next, so you can skip Saki, grab yourself Lynn, and then save for Annabelle down the road, and you're going to have a very, very strong team. That's how good I think Ruby is. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video today. Hopefully it was helpful, and let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Thank you so much for all the support here on the channel, and I'll see you all in the next one. Remember to stand out, be different, have fun, go further beyond in everything that you do. My name is Cody, but you can call me further. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.